What is a trauma bond? A trauma bond is an intense connection between two people who are in an unhealthy relationship dynamic. This dynamic often consists of a lot of positive reinforcement followed by a lot of negative reinforcement. So there'll be a cycle of positive and negative reinforcement, which is incredibly confusing. It's this type of relationship that's like an emotional roller coaster. One day you're up, the next day you're down. You never know when it's going to be good. You never know when it's going to be bad, yet you feel like you love this person more than anything. You feel like they understand you better than everyone else. You feel like they're the only one who can really see you, love you, be there for you, but at the same time, they are the one who hurts you the very, very most. And if you have someone like this in your life, you may be in a trauma-bonded relationship. Trauma bonds can occur between romantic partners, but they can also occur between family members and friends. This form of attachment is rooted in trauma, so the people involved in a trauma bond, they do have some kind of a baggage. I mean, we all do, right? But the people who stay in trauma bonds like this and who get hooked on this cycle, they often have some sort of trauma in their past, which is why they get attracted to this dynamic in the first place. But of course, once you're in the trauma bond, it's incredibly difficult to leave. So here are some key features of the trauma bond. Like I said, there'll often be this very unhealthy cycle where one day there's an idealization of the partnership and of the partner, and the next day suddenly there'll be a complete devaluation, leading the person to feel very confused and very powerless to the whims of the other partner. Sometimes there can be an actual victim-abuser dynamic in a trauma bond, and other times both people are doing this to each other in the relationship. So both people are trauma bonded to each other, and they're both perpetuating this cycle of idealization and devaluation. It's very confusing, and it's very hard on the self-esteem, and the more our self-esteem gets broken down, the less we feel strong, independent, and powerful enough to leave a dynamic like this. So that's really the problem, is the longer you stay in a relationship like this, the more dismantled your self-esteem is going to be. And this intermittent reinforcement keeps you coming back for more, just the same way as someone gets addicted to gambling. They never know when they're going to hit the jackpot, but sometimes they do, and it feels amazing, right? And it's such a big, big reward. So the high is so, so high. It's the same here. There's intermittent reinforcement. You never know when it's going to be good. You never know when it's going to be bad. But when it's good, it's so, so good that it's probably better than anything you have ever experienced in your entire life in terms of relationships. And we'll get back to that later because that has to do with neurochemistry as well. But yes, you feel this incredible high when you win the jackpot. And so that's why you keep coming back for more, because you've never felt anything this good. Even though if you had to put a percentage on it, maybe you're feeling good 10% of the time and 90% of the time you're feeling bad, or even if it's a 50-50, it's not a healthy relationship. It's not a healthy way for two people to be together. There should be some kind of stability there. It shouldn't be either idealization or devaluation. There's a middle ground, right? And if you're a happy, healthy couple, then you've found that middle ground. So you don't reach the same highs and you also don't reach the same lows. And the problem, yes, the highs feel good. It's kind of like an addiction, honestly. So with the highs, they feel great, but the lows, they feel so awful. You probably have never felt anything as horrible as a low in a trauma-bonded relationship. It feels very, very bad. So it's not really worth it. You got to ask yourself, are these highs worth these lows that I'm feeling? One of the problems is that we are also dealing with what's called cognitive dissonance, which means that as a person within this type of relationship dynamic, you have a really hard time making sense of everything. This person who loves you so much, who you love so much, is also the same person that is doing these awful things to you. So are they a good person or are they not a good person? That can often lead to you lying to yourself, making excuses for them, making excuses for yourself, and again, helping you stay blind to what's going on so you don't leave the relationship. When these trauma-bonded relationships are manipulative, which they often are. So the thing is, you can be in a trauma-bonded relationship where both people are kind of oblivious to what's going on. They're both traumatized. They're just acting out. They don't really know what they're doing. But then sometimes you are in a relationship with someone who knows what they're doing and who is deliberately manipulating you. And that's very bad. But it does happen, unfortunately. The manipulation, whether it's conscious or unconscious, is very damaging to you. But at least when it's unconscious, there is no direct malintent. Whereas when someone is very conscious of manipulating you, they do have malintent, and they certainly don't really care about your well-being. The forms of manipulation that occur in a relationship like this is, for example, gaslighting. The other person will make you feel like it's your fault and only your fault that everything is going wrong, even though they're playing a huge role in this as well. They'll guilt trip you. They will love bomb you. And love bombing, if you haven't heard of it, is this extreme flow of love and affection that it feels unearned. It feels like it just happened from one moment to the next. This person is doting on you, is completely all over you, doing everything for you, which is also a form of manipulation. For example, if the person feels like you're about to leave, then they might love bomb you for a little while to make you stay. But then when you've actually gotten comfortable again, this love and affection will stop. What unfortunately often happens in trauma-bonded relationships is that you isolate yourselves. Maybe both partners isolate themselves from the outside world because your friends and family, let's say it's a romantic relationship, your friends and family, they're probably not that happy about your relationship. They probably have seen the red flags and they've seen that you are unhappy, they've seen that you've changed. So over time, what happens is that you get very isolated. There are very few people you can talk to about what's really going on because, you can't tell your friends anymore. They're just going to tell you to leave the person. You can't tell your family members. They're going to say the same thing. So you have a very limited circle. And the more isolated you get, the more this unhealthy dynamic can really take form and take over. So you need to always have a lifeline. You need to always have some sort of support system. Even if it is talking to a professional, you need to have someone that you can confide in about this relationship. And I understand that over time, it probably can't be your friends or family because they're not going to want to hear it at some point if you keep staying with this person who is clearly making you very unhappy. But there has to be someone in your life that you can confide in. It's very, very, very important. You need that reality testing because otherwise you're going to normalize a lot of behaviors that are not normal because the boundaries that they get pushed day by day by day by day by day. Maybe if on the first date this person had behaved the way that they're behaving now 2 years down the line, maybe you would never have dated them. You probably wouldn't. But now 2 years down the line, your boundaries have been pushed so much, little by little, that now it's normalized for you. And you're going to accept worse and worse behavior. Let's get into the neurochemistry of this trauma bond because your body is making it difficult for you to leave this relationship. These highs and lows are triggering strong neurochemical reactions in your brain. A lot of dopamine is released and it's associated with pleasure and reward when things are good. Oxytocin is released, for example, when you feel that connection right after a fight and you finally hold each other and touch each other after you've been angry and yelling and shouting for hours. Adrenaline is being released into your bloodstream a lot because you are very anxious, you're very nervous in a relationship like this, you're probably walking on eggshells. So your body is being bombarded with these hormones and it sends you on an emotional roller coaster, which is very difficult to get off of. So that means when you finally do leave a trauma bond relationship, it's going to be like withdrawing from some kind of a drug. It is going to feel like you're kicking an addiction and you're going to feel the withdrawal symptoms in the beginning and you just have to see it as an addiction. Plain and simple, you're withdrawing from an addiction. It's going to be difficult, especially in the beginning when your hormones are used to this high and low environment. You just need to give it some time, and you need to go no contact. In order for you to break a trauma bond, you have to recognize that this was wrong. This was very unhealthy. You have to educate yourself on what went wrong, what's your fault, what's the other person's fault. Talk to a professional. That always helps. But there's also plenty of great resources here on YouTube and podcasts and whatnot, because you need to seek some sort of support. It's difficult to do something like this all on your own. If you really want to move on from this trauma-bonded relationship, you have to go no contact. Sometimes that's not possible if you have children with the person that you've been in this unhealthy relationship with, and then you just have to have very, very strong boundaries as to when you speak, how you speak. As some people, they speak through other people, just not to have that direct contact with each other, because it's going to be difficult for you to leave, but you can do it. So many people have done it, and you can do it too. When you leave, you need to start dealing with the trauma that caused you to be open to this type of connection in the first place. And you probably have a lot of additional trauma that you've picked up along the way while you were in this relationship. So really get the help you need. It's so, so important. I hope this video was helpful. If you liked it, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. And I look forward to seeing you again soon.